So, so good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for making the time on a Wednesday in the middle of the week, the day after Halloween, dedicating time to be here with us. We do not take your sacrifices lightly. We can do a lot of the things we can do because of amazing volunteers like you, so we appreciate it. We appreciate it a whole lot more because talking about like mental health and emotional well-being is not really something that it's not really an open conversation. So I think we are like really fortunate to have this chance to talk about it. And for me, I am just like really excited because we have an amazing moderator. She's a general dentist and a speaker. We don't have enough time for me to say everything about her, but we have Dr. ArNelle Wright, right? She's really making a change of like what the reality in dentistry is on her Instagram page, The Daily Dentist. And then we have our repeat, our repeat panelist, Jasmine. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Jasmine is currently a D3 at Tufts University. And despite her busy schedule, she's making time for us. So I appreciate it. And I look forward to like the insights you are willing to share with us. And also we have Ezzy, and she's a D2 at UCLA. Uh, D2 year is not easy, so I'm sure she has some tips on how to make sure you go through with all your ducks in a row. So I am really excited for this. In the interest of time, I will let the panelists introduce themselves before our attendees. We really would like to know more about you. So if you can please give us a brief introduction in the chat. That way we at least know who we are interacting with. And during this conversation as well, if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat for us. And I will pass it over to Dr. Lila to do before we get started officially. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Luma Chenyes, and second year over at El Paso University at Texas, Texas Tech. So thank you again for organizing and bringing all these wonderful people together. And yes, I'm always excited for our webinars, especially for tonight. Let me just tell you how I came across Dr. Wright. As we know, as the daily dentist. Here I am trying to just procrastinate on my charge just on Instagram. And I see this young dentist, African American dentist, talking about leadership, but in a different way. And I was seeing how she was talking about shifting your mindset, really looking to see how you can be a better leader, not only for your team, but for your family and for your community. And the first time, Dr. Wright, is when I saw you go to Spear. And so Spear is here in Arizona. And I was like, oh, how cool. And so that's how I got interested. And then our circles started to combine, and our spheres were not in a way colliding, but I feel like synergistically coming together, right? We started serving on the American Dental Association task force to eliminating barriers for historically underrepresented students. And then we continue to see each other in the speaker circuit, SmileCon, and you have served in your District 14 in leadership. But it's almost like so the way you bring about the energy in any room you stand in is just so bright, Dr. Wright. And I just think that you're the perfect person to talk about this important topic. Everything we talk about here, of course, is like how to get everyone set up for success along their journey to dental school. But if we're not taking care of ourselves and our mental well-being, then we're not going to be a great dentist to our patients. We're not going to be great co-workers to those that we're working on our teams, to our classmates in dental school. So I love that you are now kind of giving back and developing on, and I'm sure, and I hope that you can speak a little bit more about being and becoming your best in your leadership framework and community. So thank you, Dr. Wright, for being here. And of course, we couldn't have this without our dental students. You are what we call our near peer mentors. Dr. Perry and Dr. Adazwa, I really do appreciate you guys taking the time out of your studies to be here. I'm telling you, when our pre-dental students are logging in, they are taking notes religiously, exactly what you are saying. Like, okay, they just are where I am, just a couple steps ahead, and you're leaving those cookie crumbs to success. So thank you so much. I do want to acknowledge Julie Mankey, who's also behind the scenes, making sure that all our operations are going smooth. And I know we have a lot to get into, so I will just stop my comments there. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Wright to introduce herself. And then if you could pass it on to our dental students. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Highshaw. I am so excited to be here and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for seeing me, thinking of me, keeping me in mind, and sharing such just really heartfelt words. Just kind of giving me those flowers. You know, I love that we exchanged all the love the way that we do on social media. And when we met in person, I was such a fangirl. Like, it was ridiculous, you guys. But I know we want to get started with our program tonight. So I want to say hello to all of our attendees, those that are watching here live, and everybody that's going to be watching the replay. I'm Dr. ArNelle Wright. You all know me socially as the Daily Dentist, and one of my most recent developments in my many things that I have going on is my program, Being and Becoming Your Best. And I'm so excited to be able to share bits and pieces of that with you. But tonight is not really about me. It's really about you all, just making sure that you all are healthy on this new journey that we are pretty much on together. We're just at different stops in our journey. So I'm a general dentist. I practice here in Orlando, Florida, and I graduated from the University of Florida College of Dentistry in the class of 2017. And it has been a very fun and a wild ride. And so before we jump in, I want to give our panelists some time to share about themselves and to, introduce themselves before we jump in. So we can start with Jasmine, and then we'll go over to Essie.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Jasmine. I am a third year here at Tufts Dental School. I am originally from North Carolina. I attended University of North Carolina, and then I did my master's at NC State University in physiology. I am really enjoying the clinic life at this point. I am so glad to be done with the didactic portion and starting to see patients. I'm really excited for also graduation next year. So that is where I'm at currently. So I look forward to sharing all of my tips and tricks with you as I continue with this webinar.
Hello, everyone. My name is Essie. I am a D2 at UCLA, like Luma said. This is a hard year. I'm a few months in and it hurts, but we're getting through it. I'm originally from Sacramento, and then I went to UC Berkeley for undergrad. Now I'm here at UCLA, so you could tell that I love California. Hopefully I get to stay here. I'm really excited to share my thoughts and experiences with y'all. I made an Instagram just so that you guys can follow me and I can still talk to you afterwards. So I would love to hear from y'all later. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, let's go ahead and kick off our evening. Before we jump in, I want to just say a few words, and I want you all just to kind of feel them and think about them and just hear and just see what resonates with you. So tonight we're going to be talking about stressors. We'll be talking about resilience, courage, bravery, self-care. These are all buzzwords, in my opinion, that are starting to circulate really, really consistently in our industry, especially as post-COVID era, right? So being your best, well-being, wellness, these are all things that a lot of people are talking about, but I don't think they're talking about enough or in great detail. And so we know that this topic is not something that should be taken lightly. And so all of the stories that are going to be shared here, this is a very safe space. It's mostly to just help you on your journey. And I'm a big believer in anticipation. So what I mean by that is you may not be experiencing some of the things that we're going to talk about tonight or at this moment in your journey into dentistry. But there may come a time where you may experience some of these things. So I want you all to just remember to take the meat, leave the bones. Basically, what that means is whatever applies, take it, hold on to it, grasp it. If it doesn't apply right now, then you may see it come about in your life later on, right? And so I want you to be able to have some pearls and some nuggets to turn to and just build a reservoir tonight. All right. So we have a bunch of questions for our panelists. I may chime in, I may share some of my personal stories as well. But we want to just jump in and with some Q&A and kind of get the ball rolling. So our first question is going to be to Jasmine. Jasmine's going to kick us off with stressors, because we all know that dental school is a very rigorous ordeal. It's a big ordeal. You know, you're becoming a doctor, you're fulfilling your dream, but that dream comes with something else, and that's called stress. So I want to talk about first, like, what are some of the biggest stressors that you have identified in your path to becoming a dentist? Jasmine, you can start us off.
So I would say the first initial one that I think we all probably could agree on would be like having to take that DAT test. Like, just to take that DAT test alone can be scary, like, because it's like you feel like your life is riding on that. So like for me, I knew like I was always like scared to take it. So I would always push the date out, and I'm like, okay, like I'm just wasting money at this point. So like that was like my biggest stressor coming into dental school as a pre-dental. And like I knew that time was really important, managing my time to study. Also, like, you don't want to continue to like pay $100 to keep extending that, you know, every so often. So like just being mindful of when is the best time for you to take it. So if that is different, it looks different for everyone. So like, you know, like Dr. Wright said, like everybody's timing is different. So you can't say like, Jasmine, what did you do? Because what worked for me may not work for you, but we can come up with a plan together that would work for you. So that would be like my biggest stressor. But like now in dental school, the probably biggest stress probably would just be managing the time of clinic, manage the time of studying, manage the time of just being a person. And that is important because you have to give to yourself to be able to give to others. So that is what I would give.
I love that. Oh, I love that so much. Essie, we'll go to you.
That is actually very much aligned with my biggest stressor too. Even as a pre-dental student taking the DAT, balance between your life and striving towards your goal is extremely hard to figure out. And even as you go into dental school, it becomes even harder because you're doing all of these new things that you probably never done before. So that's been my biggest stressor. Feeling that I need to be this amazing A++ star student all the time, but at the same time wanting to grow into myself outside of school. So that's definitely meant learning time management, and then just taking the time every once in a while to check in on myself and what my needs are for everything else.
Oh, so you all just mentioned some amazing things. So time management, I didn't even bring that one up. That is a big stressor. It's still something that comes up even out in practice, managing your time, because the time looks different. We have to manage our patient schedule. And so I believe one of you are in clinic already. And so that's another thing that you have to manage. And it can also be a level of stress. Like, it's just a different type of stress. Would you say, yeah? I think it's
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, because like you said, we have to manage not only our schedules, but then the clinic schedule because it's whatever is available, then the patient schedule because they also have a schedule in life too. So like I'm going through 3 calendars just to see like, oh, can I book one appointment? So it's very important.
And then also the faculty who has to sign off on some of those procedures that you're performing, making sure that they're available and hopefully they're having a great day. Like there's some ways to mitigate some of these things. The message that I think we all want to send is that there are stressors, there's different ways, and we hope that you will leave here equipped with some tools in your toolbox on how to handle them when they come in your life. Yeah? Good. So speaking of being equipped, that brings us to our second question is, what are the tools that you use to head off these stressors? Like, what are some of the strategies that you've developed either through reading, books, therapy? What are some of those things? Like, let's talk about that tonight. Essie, I'm going to have you take that one.
So one thing that I actually started recently doing was starting my day with the intention. You're going to go into every day, you're going to go to class, you're going to go to clinic, you have that test that's going on at the end of the week. But it's been important for me to start my day and say, you know what, by the end of the day, I want to be able to do, or say that I was able to do XYZ. Maybe it was drink a cup of water or make sure you get your 3 meals in, or speak to someone new today, get yourself out of your comfort zone. That's been important for me. It's been an important way for me to ground myself as I go throughout the day. And that has helped me with my stressors, because it kind of takes me out of the hustle and bustle of just getting to the end of the day or the end of the week. And then also listening to myself has been really important. Knowing when your body is tired, maybe you need a nap, maybe you need to go talk to your parents, your friends, your siblings, maybe you need to go treat yourself. That has been so important when it comes to like heading off my stressors, knowing that they're creeping up on you sometimes and you don't want to let that build up.
Jasmine, before you jump in, I'm gonna ask one question, because I think, Essie, you mentioned the time management piece initially, and you also said balance. So one of the things in dental school that I experienced was I did not give myself permission to take those breaks or to go to the gym. So I would go to the gym, but then I would feel so guilty. And that for me was an added stressor. Have either of you experienced that, like, oh my God, I know I need to study, but I also need to take care of myself? Maybe we can talk about that too, in one of your answers. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Absolutely. Like for me, like just like Etsy said, I had to become intentional about what you just said, Dr. Wright, about working out. So I literally would just plan my weekly calendar. And in my calendar, I would have to literally put workout for 30 minutes. Because if it's not there, like at this point, my calendar runs my life. I don't even know what I got going on tomorrow until I look at it. Like I just let my calendar run me. But it's a checklist for me too, because I think we can all kind of admit, like, we're all kind of type A people as dentists, because we want things a particular way, a certain way. Like we are very detailed oriented people. So for me, like the checklist is important to say, like, I know I went over my notes. I know I went over my case notes. I know I've studied for today, and it makes me feel productive. So the productivity is important to me. I don't want to just be busy, because you can be busy but not doing anything at all. There's a lot of people who are busy walking around doing things. Oh, I went to this lunch and learn. I did this, but what did you actually accomplish? So when I ask myself at the end of the day, I say, oh, wow, like I completed 2 patients today. I also studied for my exam this week. I also did work out for 30 minutes, but going back to like just beginning the day, I also did go over my quote just to stay positive, just to stay, regardless of what hits me throughout the day, like I go back to that quote or that scripture to stick with me so that I won't become frustrated or flustered because, like you just said, faculty was not in a good mood. That has nothing to do with me. So I go back to that quote of like, this has nothing to do with me. Just continue with your day. So that's really important to have that constant reminder that most of the time, when you have negative interactions or if anything does not go as planned, it has nothing to do with you. And thankfully, when I've been put into those situations, I've even had my faculty to sincerely apologize to me because I did not react to them. I responded by saying, okay, no problem. But in that response, that's when they realized like, oh, I'm so sorry for, saying it that way or attacking you. I know you're just here to learn. And I think that's important is like how you respond to situations because it can be overwhelming for everyone.
It really can. And you know what? So we talked about intentions, and we also talked about like scheduling and time management. But we also we didn't touch on environment. This is just, I'm sorry, so many of my sidebars, because energy is transferable, right? So if we're in that hustle and bustle culture, which dental school is exactly that, because we have 4 years, we got to get out of there, and then we have to go on to the next thing. Even either it's going straight into practice or it's going into a next program or something like that. What do you all think about your environment, like the culture of, dental school, maybe your friends, it's like, how do you mitigate that? Because oftentimes we want to be supportive of our friends, our colleagues, our peers, but then if their stress is transferring over to us, like, how do we best take care of ourselves, like with that, being in that environment? And each, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say either one of you can take that one. Sorry, I knew I a little curveball there.
That is something that I had to actually learn going into dental school. This was a different kind of stress, like similar to what I'll probably go into D3, going into clinic, it's going to be a different kind of stress. But entering into dental school was a different kind of stress that I've experienced. And I was experiencing that alongside all of my classmates. So it was kind of a maze to figure out who was kind of feeding me that negative energy, who was being, but on the other side, being there with me and validating kind of the stressors that I was having, making me feel not crazy at the end of the day when I'm like, I'm really stressed about this. I don't know what it's about. So that balance between the two, having those kinds of people around you was really hard to figure out. But you kind of start to see what kind of influences people have over you as you experience more with them as you go throughout school. So with time, I think I've learned that personally.
Jasmine, you have any?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is to say like for example, we all stress out differently. Like I stress out and I tend to just like go into like hibernation, isolation, and I don't call my friends. I don't, reach out to them. And so that may come off to them like, are you mad at me? And if they're truly your friend, they won't be feeling like it's offense to them. So a lot of times you're going to notice in dental school, like you're not going to call your friends every day. You're not going to text them all day. They're going to be like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Studying. You're not going to birthday parties anymore as much because you should be studying a lot. So you kind of lose out on a lot of fun opportunities, but those friends also are supportive of me to say, Jasmine, I know you're studying, but I also still wanted to invite you. And I like when my friends can give me the option, even if I know I'm gonna probably say no. It feels good to still to be invited because sometimes you do feel alone, but I do like to still have the invitations.
Yeah. This is so good. I hope all of our attendees are loving everything as well. You guys do not just sit there. If you have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat. We do have administrative team working on the chat, watching your comments just in case there's anything that you'd like to add or any questions that you're going to ask at the end. But our next two questions, we've kind of touched on them a bit, which is, what does your mental best look like? And if you use affirmations or anything, what do you use like as a guide for this journey of emotional health and well-being? So how about if we tackle those two together? Like, what affirmations, if you would like to share one, I can definitely share one that I still currently use. It's like taped up in my office at work as well. So I think, Jasmine, I'm going to throw this one at you. Affirmations that you use, and then like when you think about being and becoming your best self, like from a mental health perspective, tell everybody what that looks like to you.
Yeah, so the first one, the first question would be like, for the affirmation, I follow this Instagram page, it's like being champion minded. So like every morning I get up, I see like a quote or something. And one of them that is my favorite is, a champion is not someone who wins all the time. A champion is someone who gives all they got to win. And I think that is what dental school is, because it's not going to be a win every day. You're not going to always get a patient. You're not going to always get an A on your exam. And you're not going to always win. But like when you accept that, you won't feel defeated. You won't get that imposter syndrome. You won't feel like you're not good enough. You just accept it and move on. I noticed like in first year, I would tend to like dwell on the fact, oh my God, like I didn't do as well on that exam. But if I keep dwelling in that place, I'm not going to do well on the next exam and the next one. So it's like, move on so that you can do better on the next thing. I would leave you with that affirmation if Essie you want to add to that.
I love that affirmation, Jasmine. I learned from that because that is That's perfect. That's exactly how I have felt, honestly, the past few months. So I personally don't really use affirmations, but maybe I do. Something that I constantly remind myself, especially in lab when we're practicing our preps, is that I belong exactly where I'm at right now. I have to constantly remind myself that I've worked so hard to figure out that I wanted to be in this field. I've worked so hard to enter in, first of all, and now I'm working hard to stay in and grow and go off into the field. Um, but not every single day is I did a great job on this test. It's not every day where you're proud of your prep. So it's a constant, I have to constantly remind myself that I belong where I am and I've worked hard and there's a reason that I'm here. And that has helped me stave off the imposter syndrome that I have felt in different parts within my dental school life. And in terms of being my mental best, again, it goes back to balance. I have to constantly remind myself that this might sound kind of bad, but I'm not just a dental student. I'm so many other things. And I have to make sure that I'm touching on those things, whether it be every once in a while I go on that hike, or maybe every once in a while I cook something new for myself. I have to remind myself that I'm so much more of that. And when I go out into the work field, the day has to end at some point, right? So as a dental student, it has to end too. At some point, you got to go do something else. So I have to remind myself of that. And that's when I look when I'm mentally my best, when I'm cognizant of that and I act on that.
Oh, I love, love, love. Go ahead, Jasmine. Go ahead.
The only thing I would add to that about being your best self is like my best self looks like just being prepared. Like I know that just sounds like the typical aesthetic TikTok girl, but I'm not. I don't do it all the time, but I do it sometimes. But just like getting up in the morning, getting my coffee. And like when I get that coffee in my hand, I don't know why, but I feel like now I'm about to conquer the day. Then if I get the coffee plus have everything else aligned, like my slides are downloaded already and I show up to class early, I'm sitting there waiting for the professor to see me. Like they haven't even got here. Like I'm actually like not impressed that they're not here 15 minutes early because I'm here early. So then I feel organized, I feel ready, I feel structure, and I have routine. So I think that is a challenge that I present to myself every day, just to be early, because then I already feel like I'm a step ahead.
Yep. And honestly, being early to anything, like not having to like run, hustle and bustle, this is something that I still have to work on to this day. But I know whenever I'm prepared, life is so much smoother. I'm not aggravated. I'm not like breaking out in a sweat, like panicking about what's next. I can just ease into it. So for me, it definitely looks like easing into my morning. Anytime I'm able to just ease into the office, not having to get there 5 minutes before a huddle begins, and then lead the huddle and stir up the team, all of those things, it really does put a damper on your day. So I love that we are having this conversation tonight. And there are a few things I wrote down while both of you were speaking. So we talked about dwelling, because this leads into my next question. We talked about dwelling, moving on, and belonging. Like, is that dwelling or the act of moving on, is that a way that you can say you practice being resilient? And if not, share with our group what that being resilient and that courage and bravery looks like for you. Like, how do you practice that in the midst of time management, imposter syndrome, hustle and bustle of clinic and class and sim lab? Talk to us about that. I'll have you start, Jasmine.
I would say in my being resilient, it just looks like what we've already said multiple times. It's just balancing everything equally. So I know we tend to feel like, oh my God, if I sit here, and study 12 hours a day, like I'm going to be great, but that's really not really good or healthy for you. Like on average, most dental school students or med school students maybe study 6 to 8 hours a day, but it just depends on where you are in your life at that point. Like what are you studying for? But if this is what you're giving, completely, like you're not working, you don't have any other obligations, that is possible. But also, like, you do have to give yourself those mental health moments. So like for me, I was really I had to make myself like take a day off. And what I decided was my best day to take off was Wednesdays. So Wednesdays made me trick my mind to think that the week will be shorter. So if I go to school Monday and Tuesday, I don't have anything to do Wednesday, and now I only have to go to school Thursday and Friday. So it makes me feel like, oh, I have a long weekend, but I really don't. I just trick my brain. So like I just like to give myself that break so that I don't get overwhelmed, so that I don't burn myself out. And I think it is a really important thing when you can feel burnout really easily if you just keep going without a stop. So I would say resiliency comes with recognizing the signs that you need to take a break and making sure that you do give yourself that time.
Good. That was so good. So giving yourself that time, taking that break in the middle of the week, that's a way for you to bounce back. Yeah.
Exactly.
What about you, Essie?
For me personally, I'm thinking right back to being in the lab right now. Resiliency and even taking all these exams is knowing that if I don't perform as well one time, as long as I put my best foot forward the next time, I can only go up from there. And that's what gets me through every single day. I had a horrible prep 2 days ago. I forgot how to hold a handpiece. I didn't know what was going on. And I was like, okay, it's an off day. That's fine. You know what? Tomorrow we're going to take our time. We're going to go back to the basics. And that's what helps. What helps me get to the next point where I could just be better the next time. You know, maybe next time I won't be better. Maybe you need a few more tries, but that's what gets me. That's what helps me be resilient in the times where it's a bit harder to see myself succeeding in the future.
And honestly, you know what? What I hear too from both of you is being kind to yourself. I think times we don't do that enough. So I think that is actually another way to head off the stressors and all the things that we've talked about. Would you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, being kind to yourself. And honestly, it sounds like what you just said too, Essie, is like giving yourself grace. It's okay that you had an off day. You know what I mean? So oftentimes we give more people, yes, Dr. Highshaw said is literally reading my mind in the chat. If you all can see, it says we give everyone else grace, but not ourselves. And so that's another gem or another nugget that you want to put down on your sheet or put in your bag, so that you can remember you may have an off day. Even when you're studying for exams, you all, like studying for the DAT, you may have a day where you're just not connecting with the chemistry or the orgo or the reading comp or whatever subject it is. Just return to it tomorrow. Sometimes your brain, that may be a message from your brain saying you need a little bit of a break, and then we'll start back up tomorrow or in the next couple of hours, you know? We talked a little bit about belonging. I remember Essie mentioned, the statement that you say is you belong right where you are, you know? So one dentist has mentioned that you have to believe you belong here when you believe others will too. Jasmine, have you struggled with any feelings of belonging? And if so, how did you overcome that? And Essie, if you have something that you want to contribute more on the belonging topic, I would love for our attendees to hear that as well.
Yeah, so I would say belonging in dental school, like you kind of start to feel maybe like you don't belong when, like, as she said earlier, when we start to feel like, oh, we didn't do well on that exam or something, because everyone else is saying, oh, how easy it was, or, oh yeah, I just studied last night. Like most of those people are lying. They have studied every single day of their life for 40 hours if it was possible. Like the people who say they don't study are the ones studying all the time. So don't like believe those people, because it would make you feel like you're an idiot, but that's not true. And sometimes people are lying about what they actually made on an exam, and that is something for them to deal with. But if you just don't even ask or don't even like try to compare yourself to other people, you won't feel like, you're not good enough in a way. Like I ended up first year, that's where we took the most exams. We had like 50 exams. Maybe like the first half, I was like staying after the exam and like just talking to people about what we got wrong or what we got right or why this answer could have been that. But I eventually stopped doing it because I realized it was just more exhausting than it was helping me. At that point, I couldn't change it. At that point, like it's just making me feel even worse. So I just stopped just talking about the exams, and I just like went straight home afterwards. And after an exam, I think the most important thing to do after a test for me is to don't go back to studying for something else. Like, your brain is tired. Your brain just sat there and played a game. That's how I look at exams now. They're games. Like, it just played a tough game. And now it's like, just take me somewhere to relax. Go walk in the park. Go do a Pilates class. Go do something else to like strengthen your brain in a different area. But like, don't go back to studying for 8 hours right after an exam. Give yourself that time, just because like one day isn't going to change an exam grade. So if you didn't study for that day, it's okay. Typically, most exams are in the morning because that's when I feel like our brains are most alert. Like, I've never really had an exam at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but when I have, yeah, I'm absolutely sleepy. So they try to keep them in the mornings. So be mindful, if you're not a morning person, you might as well become one, because that is where they're going to test you the most. You will need to get up at 6:30 to have your brain ready to go for an 8 o'clock exam, or earlier. You don't want to get up at 7:30 and walk in there at 8, because now your brain is like, wait, should I be brushing my teeth right now or looking at A, B, C, D? You have to train your brain. And once you train your brain, then like your body and your brain becomes used to getting up, and it becomes normal.
Love it, love it. All right, over to you, Essie, about belonging.
Jasmine, I love your faculty for giving you exams in the morning. We've had so many in the afternoon, and I'm not gonna lie, I think I like the afternoon exams because I can study during lunchtime. I take my lunch, I eat my little eat my little lunch, and I get to study, and I go there, take the exam at the end of the day. And something that I have taken away from being, especially in undergrad, I was in an environment where everyone wanted to talk about their exam scores. They wanted to talk about all the questions that they might have gotten wrong. Something that I have definitely learned is once you hit submit, there's nothing you can do about that exam. I don't waste a single breath on it. It's over, I move on. But in terms of feeling like you belong in a space, I actually really struggled with this. My first year, especially that first quarter, I did not feel like I belonged with any of the people that I was going to school with. And that took a huge toll on my mental health. Part of that is like, I'm an extremely quiet, shy person, very reserved. So it might have made it harder for me to open up to other people. It might have made it harder for other people to come and approach me. So something that I had to be very cognizant of is just taking the steps to introduce myself to a new person every day, or just stepping out of my comfort zone. Maybe it might not have been a classmate, maybe it might have been a faculty member, maybe it might have been someone that's a year older than me, but it took a lot of work for me to feel like I said previously, I belong in the space where I'm in. You know, I'm not going to get along with everyone, and that's okay. You are in a group of like a diverse group of people, hopefully, and a large amount of people. And just try to find that community where you can, and that will make your experience 10 times better once you have people behind you, cheering you on, helping you through the days, because it's hard to go at it alone and not feeling like you have a place.
So awesome. So awesome. There's another question that I want to share with you all that we received from another doctor, and it's about emotionally, it being emotionally draining to pretend to be someone else. I feel like our panelists, like you guys, have done an amazing job at that self-awareness piece. And I feel like that's half of the battle, like knowing who you are before you get into dental school, and before you're surrounded or in an environment where other people can tell you who to be, if that makes sense. So it's much easier to be yourself. Do you guys, I believe you all have a strong sense of yourself. And if you agree with my belief, like, can you tell all of our attendees, like, how did you arrive at that point? Share, you know, what is your favorite thing about yourself on this journey in dental school, and maybe just equip them with some of those tips.
I can take this one since Jasmine's been going first. I feel like I had a lot of first coming into dental school. I actually going in, I kind of realized I didn't have a strong sense of self. And so it took a lot of reflection, especially at the end of the day, at the end of the week. My partner always reminds me, like, maybe you should journal. And I'm just not that kind of person, but just kind of mental reflection has really helped me just kind of reflect on experiences that I had the day, how they made me feel, relationships that I had formed, how they made me feel, how I wanted certain things to change. And then on top of that, being adventurous has been extremely important. Putting myself out there completely out of my comfort zone to do like this right now is completely out of my comfort zone. And I'm going to go later and reflect on this, and it'll help me kind of learn more about myself. And so reflection is number one key if you're like me and you're still kind of coming into yourself and learning more about yourself. And it's a really exciting time right now because we're all doing something crazy. Like, this is an amazing opportunity for us, and you got to learn as much as you can about yourself right now.
You're doing a great job. I can't tell that this is outside of your comfort zone, by the way. Doing such an amazing job, by the way.
Yeah,
So,
you really are.
yeah. What about you?
I would say the first one, and I know this is like very cliche, but it's true for me. I really fake it until I make it. And I act like I'm a dentist. I act like this is what dentists are supposed to do. So yeah, open wide. All you gotta do, like, oh, you're having a little anxiety. Don't worry about it. What's going on? How do you feel? What's going on? Like, I just start talking to them about their weekend or something. I just try to make it not even just about their teeth. Like, I try to just be personal as I can be. Prior to that, though, besides faking it until you make it, I think it's really important to have someone to look up to. So mentors for me are like the biggest key. So yeah, I look at people like Dr. Wright and be like, I'm just watching her on Instagram and like, oh, so again, I'm faking it till I make it because I'm not in her shoes yet, but I'm seeing how she moves, what she does, her professionalism, her style, her poise, the way she talks. Like, we're kind of like, just learning from each other in a way. And that's the importance of mentorship. So I think like I have really great mentors that help me feel like headed in the right direction, even if it's just a simple like text throughout the day or throughout the week, or like things like this where we're giving really good nuggets to each other.
Oh, I love that so much. I mean, if it wasn't for mentorship, we wouldn't all be here tonight. Isn't that right? I'm so glad that you brought that up, because one of the questions that I had jotted down was that mentor-mentee relationships breed community. And I think that's one of the ways for me, like I feel that I'm a strong leader, but sometimes I really like consensus and I like to lean on the experience of someone who's further ahead. Like, I have never been a person who is intimidated by someone who's further along than me. In fact, that it almost makes me want to get closer to them, to be like, hey, oh my gosh, so you probably could help circumvent some of the things that I'm going to go through, or you could help me just navigate this journey a little bit better. And so I love that you brought up the fact that mentors have helped you, on this journey as well. So, like, how has those mentor-mentee relationships helped either of you, like with your with your mental health, like on that journey? Is there anything that you've shared? Like, I know for me, I have my mentors, they're like a speed dial. I'm like, if they are a smoke signal away, a phone call away, if I'm having a moment, if I'm in self-doubt, even now in practice, 6 years out, I will still call my mentor and be like, okay, let me tell you what happened. Did I handle this correctly? And so that vulnerability, it does take time, and it takes trust to build that relationship. But I kind of would love for you all to share if there's anything from a mentor-mentee relationship that has helped you with your mental health. Essie, I think it's going to be you.
Sorry, I kept clicking a button that was not unmute.
It's okay.
So I actually did not have a lot of mentors going into dental school, and I'm currently working on reaching out to people that I look up to. But reflecting on this question, I think of the boss that I had when I was taking my gap years and how she was very much a mentor for me, trying to get me into dental school. That was a long road for me that she helped me there. But now that I'm here, she has been an emotional support for me, especially looking forward outside of dental school. She's been there to validate my fears about going into the work field, my fears about figuring out what I am going to do after I graduate, my fears about wanting to start a family, my fears about, well, I want to go travel right now. What am I going to do? And she has been the perfect person to ease all of like the fuzz in my brain and quiet it down. And just that she's this person that's like, everything's going to be okay. Like you've got a good head on your shoulders and you have to trust yourself and everything will be okay. So that's what my mentor that I have right now has done for me. And I really appreciate her. And I'm looking for that in so many other people. I'm excited to meet so many new people on this journey.
Oh, you're going to meet so many people. This is just the beginning. Trust me.
Mm-hmm. Another thing is too, though, that I have realized that I've learned so much from my classmates also, my classmates and even the people older than me. There's so much that I have learned from them. And so something that I remind myself and have reminded other people too is that like you're not just there by yourself in this little vacuum by yourself. You soak in everything that you can get from anyone that's willing to give you anything. So I'm very, very grateful for the community of people I have around me at school.
I love it. I love it. Jasmine, do you have anything additional to add? I know you brought up the mentor-mentee thing, but if you want to, you can.
Yeah, I would just add, well, one, I'm grateful for Tufts. They actually have a program where it's a vertical integration program where they give us a mentor, which is our big, as soon as we get there.
Yeah.
So it's really important because like, even though, you know, you can make friends easily, if you're shy and you don't, you
Right.
already have someone who's going to be there. So I love that because my big really is like a mentor to me. And they paired us off perfectly, even though she's not Black, she's Asian, but we act just alike. And I just love it. But the second mentor is because of the founder of this organization. I was speaking on the last webinar and I had mentioned that I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. And then like I got an email from her probably like the night after that, Dr. Layla, and she sent me a couple people to talk to. And these are like the people who I should have been talking to. Like I was like, oh wow, this is the person, like the top of the pop, the top of the top.
Yeah.
And I had the chance to not only meet with them, but like do externships with them. And this was really important to me because going into a residency is really a tough decision to make early on in second year or third year. You don't know what you really like or what you don't like. So it's important to think about those things, but it's hard to say if I want to be an ortho person or if I want to do perio for the rest of my life. It's hard to say if I want to do those things, but because of her, Dr. Layla, I was able to go out into these areas to work with the anesthesiologist. Those moments could have said, you know what, this is ridiculous, this is boring, but it actually made me confirm, like, this is exactly what I want to do.
Yeah. Oh, that's so wonderful. Look at that. And Dr. Layla says, it was her pleasure. Oh my gosh. I love hearing stories like this. And so for everybody who's watching, I hope that you all are taking notes. And as you said something earlier, like one of the things that you're doing is being intentional about introducing yourself to people. So everybody listening, please take that. Don't let that slip by, because introducing yourself, kickstarting that conversation, and just kind of sharing on to your point, Jasmine, like sharing what it is that you want to do, that actually led into more relationships. And now you've all both been able to expand your reach just by having those conversations. So it is critical that we become comfortable doing that. I know that we are running short on time, and so I wanted to see from our attendees if anybody would love to ask a question. If you have anything that's burning, a desire that you want to ask our panelists or even me, I am not opposed to answering. And I see Dr. Haisha has joined us back. So look, the bosses are coming back to get us. So I'm teasing.
I enjoyed this session so much. You guys, I mean, just the intention that you set to just really give so much value in this webinar that's going to touch so many lives. And Jasmine, it's so sweet to hear that. But I just wanted to chime in that, you know, you stepped up, you prepared. I remember you said, I'm going to research and I'm going to have the right questions to ask, and all that's so important. But so much in this mentor-mentee relationship is the fact that it's a give and take, right? You know, you yes, we're able to kind of shine a light and help guide you, but we're learning from you. I'm learning so much listening to both you, Jasmine, and Essie, and Dr. Wright. You're just like the perfect facilitator ever. I wish I could just keep you here all the time. But you're pouring back into us as well. And so it's not just a give, give, give. And Lumen and I, we talk about this always as we're doing our programming and mentorship. It's a two-way relationship. It's not transactional. It's we're developing with one another and growing together. And I just wanted to say one thing too, on when you were talking about, how do you celebrate things or take time? I really do want everyone to think about celebrating those small wins. All of us who are in dentistry and pursuing dentistry, we are high achievers. It's just point blank. That's who we are. And that's what we have in common. And so it's always like we're pushing that field post a little out further. Like we made it. And it's like we don't really celebrate. It's like, oh, but now I got to do this and now I got to do that. And that's why you just have to take time to pause. It's something as little as, you finish that first that patient that first time you're doing a anterior or endo, go get yourself a boba or something like that. You did it. Like just celebrate that. And finishing a presentation and your slides, like just or even just doing, speaking for the first time. This is gonna follow with you not only in dental school but outside. And when you were talking, Essie, about just doing something outside of your comfort zone, that's when we grow. That's when we grow, and not being scared of failure is we really learn, and sometimes some great nuggets and gems come from that failure. So yeah, I just wanted to add those in, and thank you all three of you for being here this evening. I'd love to hear if there are any other questions.
I actually have a question for Dr. Wright.
Yeah.
So looking back from now that you're a dentist and to us now, dental students, like what would you say that we should take from this D3 and this D2 year? Like
Ooh, D2 and D3. So those are very different years. I feel like D2 is so transitional, but then D3 is transitional as well, but in a different way, because now you are like at the top. Once you finish D3 and go to D4, you're like at the top. So from D2, I would take all of the didactics that you're learning. So our institution was D1 and D2 was didactic, and then D3 and D4 was clinic. Is yours like that too, Essie?
We're actually starting in the clinic for cleanings and dentures right now.
Ooh, oh
yeah.
my God. It was early. Wow. I wish. So we did not get to do that at all. And so for me, I felt like there were so many knowledge gaps that I needed to fill. And by the way, spoiler alert, the knowledge gaps are not going to go away. That if they do, that's a problem, because that's the reason why we have CE. So for me, I would say trying to fill the gaps and connect those dots. The why behind the what is really, really important, because before you treat a patient, once you get into clinic, you have to have that foundation. And so I would say if there's any deficiencies that you can identify within yourself, start trying to see if you can connect those dots and fill those gaps before you enter into clinic. Okay, so for Jacqueline, you're already in clinic. I would say fine tune those hand skills. One of the things that I did, I would watch and listen how my faculty talk to patients in faculty practice. Sometimes I would go down to faculty practice, and on spring breaks, I would stay and be in the oral surgery clinic because I really loved surgery, right? And so I would listen to how the residents spoke about certain things. And I was the person, again, I wasn't scared away. That people would be like, oh my God, don't talk to this doctor because he is going to grill you and ask you all the hard questions. And I'm like, Well, that's good, because I need to be able to answer those when my patient has those questions, or if my patient's doctor and we're doing some interdisciplinary chat, I need to be able to speak the language. You know what I mean? So that was one of my strategies. If you can speak the language, that's one of the ways that I move. I want to know the language. I want to know how to navigate, and I want to show up as a very confident doctor when I'm interacting with my patients. And so, me being first generation college student and definitely first generation dentist, I didn't have anybody who can teach me how to speak the language or walk the walk. So I kind of had to get bits and pieces in addition to my training. So if there's anything that I would leave, like for D2, I would say try and fill those knowledge gaps as best as you can before you enter into clinic and have to do all those competencies. And then D3 going into D4, it would just be really trying to fine tune like your confidence, not only as a clinician, but as a leader, like calling out when you're going to do competency and then feeling confident about it. And, asking for help. I would even say expose yourself to feedback. Ask your faculty for feedback if they don't give it to you already. Does that make sense? Because the only way that you're going to grow is if you know where you are deficient. And so it's easy to like run away from that. But for me, I'd rather know than to not know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be the student where nobody wants to tell this person anything, and then it's like they push you along, if that makes sense. So I hope that.
Thank you so much. That you actually just challenged me, your response. Like, I typically run away from that professor who I know is going to give me a hard time. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go over here. I'd rather wait 5 minutes for the easy person, just because I don't want to stand here with them for 45 minutes grilling me.
Yeah, they're gonna grill you, but that's good though.
But I'm glad that you said that, because I've been like running away from it.
Yeah, no, definitely get grilled. Yeah. Like, I mean, not like you don't want to be like hazed. Like, there's a difference. You know what I mean? Because I've heard of some faculty members who like to haze people, but you don't want that. You want to be challenged in a way that you're doing this to take it with you. Because when you're out in practice, let's say you're in practice by yourself, you're not going to have that person, or you're not going to have somebody to peek over your shoulder and say, oh yeah, you've extended your box the right amount, to the right millimeters. You know what I mean? You have to know that and have that confidence. So that's one of my strategies. I know we're short on time, Doc. I can be here all night. I did want to say a few things, if I can, real quick, Luma and Julie and Dr. Haishaw. Yes. I was just going to say, Dr. Haishaw, we are so aligned, because a few of the tips that I wanted to share with everybody was about celebrating the wins, because that's a place where I fall short. Like, I duck and dodge. Believe it or not, as public as I am, I'm very, very private. And I'm just like, don't say anything. It's just me. I'm not doing anything. But I want to encourage you all to celebrate small wins. And one thing that I really love is committing to a 1% challenge, like doing just 1% better, 1% further, just 1%. And it's small enough to where it's achievable, but small enough to where it's like a difference can be noticed at the same time. And so I want to encourage you all, to Dr. Haishaw's point, to celebrate those wins. And then on to the point of affirmations, I did write a few. One that I have up in my office right now is, I am my best. When I am my best self, I bring my best self to work, and I'm my best at home, because that work-life balance is really, really important to me. And so I just encourage everybody to continue thinking about what your best looks like to you. That's pretty much the premise of BBYB, which is, what does your best look like to you? Because what looks like your best for you is completely different for me. And then another affirmation that I wrote down is, when I listen and trust my gut or my spirit or my inner guide, I am my best when I listen and trust my gut, my spirit, or my inner guide. And I am my best, I remain my best when I protect what I've discovered. So if there's something that you don't know about, that you've learned about yourself, let's say the question that we talked about of discovering yourself, or just knowing who you are, that self-awareness piece, once you realize those strengths or those areas of weakness or challenge that you have, and you overcome them, just really work to protect them, because that's gonna help you head off some more of those stressors down the line. So I did want to leave everybody with those pointers, because I'm an affirmation person. Like, I'm always flipping an affirmation card. It's crazy. And so
Dr. Wright, could you later on email those, and maybe we can share it when we're sharing the recording? I think those are beautiful affirmations, and And
Yeah,
it wasn't until after I experienced my first burnout
I get you.
that someone said, you just need to start saying affirmations, and it really does. It just shifts everything, and it shifts it for the better. And I learned too. Also, yeah, I'm going to work on not hustling and starting my day with ease. I am always running around and last minute, and that's because no boundaries. So we
Yeah,
the
we can hold
boundaries.
each other accountable on that one. Listen, I might need to check in with
Number
you. Yeah.
two. Well, this has been incredible. Jasmine, Essie, is there any final words or thoughts or highlights? Just one thing that you just want everyone to anchor to before we wrap this up. And thank you, everyone, for staying a couple minutes later.
The only thing I would say is just like everything we've already said and mentioned is just, just be kind to your mind, knowing that if you're kind to your mind, everything will fall into place, because you have to know like nothing is ever going to be perfect, but just give yourself the grace, be kind to your mind, and everything will work out.
I would have to say, stay open-minded. You have so much to learn ahead of you. I bet Dr. Wright and Dr. Hishaw, you know the same exact thing. There's so much in this field. There's so much in this world for us to learn. So just stay open-minded and be receptive to everything that can come at you and you can learn from.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you put that in the chat. Dr. Wright, can you let everyone and when the replay goes out, how's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, we can chat and connect on Instagram. I'm at the Daily Dentist. I'm going to be taking my talents more on LinkedIn, so we can chat on LinkedIn too. I'm trying to get that all together. But if you want to just learn more about being and becoming your best, it's beingandbecomingyourbest.com. I'm still developing a lot of my blogs, and I send out weekly emails. So if it's just really encouraging, if you want to learn anything about that and chit chat, we can talk there as well. Thank y'all so
Thank you
much.
so much.
I
Yeah.
love you.
Okay,
Lula, do
so
you have any?
thank you all so much, and thank you all for staying a little past the time. I think like the highlights from this, what I'm hoping you all take away from this is that you need to be intentional, not just in studying for the DATs, but in surviving dental school, surviving the workforce. Like a lot of this mental management tips that you will learn will be applicable not just in school, but in almost every aspect of your life. So please mind your environment, watch the energy you bring around you, watch how your energy changes with those that are around you, and find a place where you can bring out the best of yourself. Find the people that can bring out the best of you. You need to
Amen.
define what your championship is. What if you be your own champion, you need to be your biggest cheerleader. Be kind to yourself as you're kind to others. Celebrate the big wins, but even celebrate the smaller wins more. When you make it within that 1 millimeter, celebrate the small wins as well. And as you all have already shared, mentorship is important. It's important because of the community. It's not just because it's giving you groupthink, it's giving you group awareness. So if you have not done it yet, find a mentor. Put yourself out there, find a mentor, because it is essential. It is essential for find a dental mentor, find a life mentor, find a mentor, find a spiritual mentor, but find a mentor because for someone that has already walked that path, they can easily know how to light the path for you. And
And
if
for
we
our
don't have,
colleague, sorry, go ahead.
so find a mentor. We will be matching again in January. So if it is something that you think will be best for you or that you can contribute in some way, because it's a give and take. You don't just get from your mentor, your mentor benefits a lot as well. So if it's something that you think you'll be a part of, applications are going to be open soon. So do sign up to be matched with a mentor. Our next mixer, because after we have our webinars, we usually have a mixer that is open to our mentees. That way we can continue the conversation, because as you all can tell, 1 hour is not nearly enough. But our mixer for this month is on the 18th. If you're interested in attending, please reach out to us. We can make sure you're on it, but do find a way to attend. All of our events, all of our webinars, our mixers are on our YouTube channel. Please use it. And I'll just want to add one more thing. We have a lot of people that are interested in your success, even people you don't know. However, not all of them can make the time to join the webinars or join the mixers. That is where our social media comes in. Please take advantage of it. As you all mentioned, putting yourself out there, like take advantage of it. For me, it was like just going to, hi, my name is this, I'm interested in dentistry. How can I go about it? Take advantage of it, because there are people that are interested in your success, vested in your success. So put yourself out there to get that help. In the interest of time, I'll go ahead. Dr. Laila, are you okay with us stopping the recording?
Yeah, I was just gonna at the very end just say, and for our colleagues who are watching, be a mentor. And you made a great point, Jasmine, that like your mentor does not look like you. And that's the biggest message that I try to share to my colleagues. You do not have to look like your mentee. You have to share the same values, and we just want to help and champion for our mentees. So it does not matter. So we need more mentors so we can show them that we did it, so can you. Thank you, everyone, and good
Thank you so
night.
much. Thank you.